Greetings, YouTube. Today I thought I'd do a tag simply because I'm in the mood, and I do seem to enjoy them. Today's tag is the book clock tag, dealing with how much time we spend reading and how quickly we read. There are 10 questions, though I'm not really sure if I'm going to be using the last one, but we'll see. Number 1, how fast you read. Now, this is an interesting question because you'd think that I could say, okay, I read this many of books this quickly, so that could figure it out. But I'm reading multiple books at the same time. And for me, subjectively, I tend to think that I read slowly. Whereas in my wife's opinion, I read quickly. It takes me usually 2 weeks to go through a nonfiction book, but I tend to read those only at work. I read nonfiction at work. At home, I'm reading gaming books most of the time, or occasionally graphic novels. And gaming books are odd in the sense that they can be very short, 30-page adventure module. They can be very large, like the 400-plus page campaign setting for the Mutant Epoch Crossroads region. And I still haven't worked my way all the way through that one yet. I took a break and I was reading something else. I could bang out 2 magazines in one evening at Starbucks, 2 gaming magazines. So it's a hard call. I mean, what do I even define as books? But I would say I read relatively quickly as far as compared to what I guess most people read as far as your average American. Not amongst the booktubers and things, obviously. I think that I'm abysmally slow compared to those. 2, how many books do you read in a year? And again, that's a tough call. Do you consider a gaming module a book? How do magazines fall into that? I tend to think, again, I don't read all that quickly and I don't read that many books. But then I look at the number of books I reviewed in the last year. I did that recently, and there's quite a few books. So I would probably set the target somewhere between 20 and 30 books a year. And I'm probably wrong on that, but I'm not going to go back and count all the books I've read. How many books are on your TBR pile? Well, my TBR pile is an entire 6-foot bookshelf, which is double stacked in certain sections, and I need to go through and edit because there are books in there I know that when I purchased I wanted to read them, and there are books that have been sitting there for so long that I probably don't want to read them anymore. Some because I've read other books that make those prior books superfluous, and sometimes it's because my tastes have changed. And there are books in that list that have just been sitting there because they are physically very large, and most of the nonfiction books I read I take with me to work. And they're too big to carry to work efficiently, but I still want to read the books, so I'm going to have to find some way of factoring them into my reading schedule at some point in the future. But my TBR pile, if you want to call it that, is an entire 6-foot bookshelf, 3 feet wide, big shelf. 4, based on how many books do you have to read and how many books you read in a year, how long will it take you to get to the end of your TBR pile list? Well, if I were to freeze my book purchases right now, at this very second, and not buy anything else at all until I got through my TBR, the nonfiction stuff at least, I figure it would probably take me 10 years to get through it. But again, there are books in there that I probably don't want to read any longer, and I know I'm not going to freeze my purchasing list. Since I buy most of my books at thrift shops and at yard sales and at charity things and things like that, and I pay anywhere between $1 and $3 for a book, I have to buy them when I find them. So I can't just go, I'll pick that up next week, because next week's not going to be there. So a lot of the time I'm buying books because I know I have an interest in them, but I don't know when I'm going to get around to reading them. But yeah, I probably have about 10 years worth of books sitting on that shelf at the moment. How many years have you been reading? I started reading when I was 5, so I've been reading for 44 years. 6, based on how many books you read in a year and how many years you've been reading. How many books have you read in your lifetime? And again, when I was younger, I read a huge number of novels. There was one summer I think I read, in a 2-month time period, I think I read 30 books. Because I was reading a book every single day. Boom, 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 boom. I was going to the library every 5 days and picking up a lot of books, going home, reading them, bringing them back the next week. And I probably pegged the number between 15 and 100 and 2,000 books. Around there, I think. That's somewhere in that ballpark figure is how many I've probably read. How many hours? 7. How many hours do you spend reading in a week? Well, at work, I spend approximately 50 minutes a day reading. I read it before work, and I read at breaks. On the weekends, I probably read for a couple of hours a week. And of course, on here on YouTube, I'm not reading the books. Those books are my gaming books, but I am still reading articles and things like that online. So 7 to 9 maybe. Yeah, factor it all in a week maybe. Not enough. I could probably read a whole lot more than that if I schedule my things a little differently. But YouTube videos do draw me in. 8. How many hours do you spend in book-related activities other than reading in a week? Booktubing, book blogging, book shopping, etc. I probably book shop, 10 to 20 minutes a week. I usually hit at least 1 or 2 thrift shops in a week. And of course, I'm talking about books here on YouTube for, 15 or 20 minutes in videos probably. And then there's the relating to people about books on the channels that I'm subscribed to. Many people who talk about books, some who are just booktubers, and then some who just have academic interest in things, or comics and things like that. So I'm not really sure. 3 to 6 hours a week. And do you count the time I spend thinking about books? I spend a lot of time thinking about books I've read. Sometimes I'm thinking about books I read decades ago. Sometimes I'm thinking about the books I'm reading now. Sometimes I'm thinking about the books I'm going to read. So I at work while I work in a factory. My job isn't all that engaging on an intellectual level. So a lot of time I'm thinking about things. Do you count that? I'm not sure. 9. How would you like to change the ratio? Would you rather spend more time reading and less time on book-related things? I would like to read more, just because I would like to have more leisure time than I have. But I don't think I really changed the ratio of how I'm spending my time at the moment. But I think I would like to just have more time to read than I have now. If I were retired, I'd like to have a schedule where I know I would be reading X amount every day. I'd like to read more than I read now. But I definitely would like to have a schedule. I work best with a certain kind of a schedule in my life. Just the way I've always functioned. It's derived from my past when I was younger, being anal retentive and attentive to details was a survival instinct, and it just got to be a habit. So I get very good at patterns and things like that, schedules. At 10, anyone else you'd like to add, and who do you want to tag? I'm not really sure that I'm going to add anyone to this list or this tag or anything. I just think anyone that would like to talk about books, talk about books. Though I may mention it to my friend Sarah. She's the only true bookophile that seems to enjoy these things as much as I do. Though I'm not a booktuber. She's more of a booktuber that has some side things on her channel, and booktubing is just one of the many things I do on my channel. My channel is a very eclectic potpourri of stuff. Some people like that, some people don't. So, anyone out there who would like to answer these questions, feel free. Comments below, or if you'd like to do video response. Remember, we can put links into the comment section now, so you can link to a video if you'd like. And so occasionally people will send me videos. They'll send me through the private messaging feature, which is fine. But remember, you just want to link your video in through the comment section. You can do that as well. And if it's an appropriate video, occasionally I get ones that make no sense, I will just leave it up, and you people can then look at it through the comment section. So feel free to do that. Occasionally I'll get people proselytizing at me through the comment section or through private messaging, through videos. I've actually had people make videos dedicated to trying to convince me to be a Christian. That was fruitless. So I'm interested in listening to what you have to say about your book reading habits.